Welcome to Talkin Baseball. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. We got a fun conversation with Cubs super utility, super pinch hitter, super player, Ian Happ. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Baseball. My name's Jimmy. I got Jake with me. Got Trevor Plouffe with me. What's your middle name? Peter?
Patrick.
Patrick. Trevor Patrick Plouffe and big baby David producing. We just wrapped up a conversation with Ian Happ, which is really fun. I actually thought there's a lot of insight gained of actual his brain and baseball stuff, Trev. And I like your question, which I'll let the audience know is coming, of why the fuck were you in the minor leagues last year? Which can be considered a weird question to ask a guy, but I think you went about it the right way, and his answer was pretty honest and awesome.
Well, I mean, we know the Cubs have a history of doing things for service time manipulation. But, yeah, you know, like the big thing for me with him is, you know, you just look at his numbers and how consistent he was in the minor leagues, brought it to the big leagues, then all of a sudden he spends 100 games in 2019 at the AAA level. That doesn't make any sense to me. So, you know, I just wanted to see what his thought process was. You know, they gave him a reason, which teams always do. But, you know, I wanted to see, like, if it was legit.
Yeah, and Trev, again, I told you this last episode with Hearn. Just fluff, a word you're going to hear in the interview a little bit. When you tell Happ that his next, 3, 4, 5 years are going to be, the prime, just stretch it out a little more for them. Tell them the next 7. Let them dream a little bit.
No, we don't want to.
I'm not a liar. It's probably. I mean, look, once you get to 30, it's tough, bro.
No, you're telling me, sister. My back's still feeling it, but
he was good.
I'll say this. He's got a podcast, which we mentioned on there, The Compound, and I like kind of his delivery. Like, he's a little coy, a little real. He's looking to make a joke or two if it's there, but I'm interested to see. He was cool.
Cool. All right, well, here's the interview, and then we'll come back to you right afterwards.
We are joined by former Cincinnati Bearcat, current Cub, the Happer, Ian Happ. How you doing, brother?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, boys.
Thanks for coming
Bearcat.
on, man.
Is that a real animal?
It's a real animal. It exists. They bring it from the Cincinnati Zoo to the games. Put it in a little cage. It's one of like the 50 fans that they get for Cincinnati baseball games when the team was winning 20 games when I was there. It's a scary looking thing, though. It's not very big. It's just scary looking.
Ooh, it is. I've never even thought to Google it or ask if it was a real animal. Now that I'm looking at it, not too hot. It's pretty ugly.
No, it's a freaky looking thing. They have like a really big statue on campus that makes it look like some sort of wildebeest. It is not that. It is just
like a badger.
Yeah, some sort of like cat badger. Yeah.
All right.
Did you guys enjoy that? Like when they bring the Bearcat, are some guys like, hell yeah, the Bearcat's coming?
Yeah, nobody really got too hyped up about the Bearcat. Maybe if it was like a massive creature that was terrifying, but it's not. It's not very intimidating.
It kind of like they're just bringing a rodent into the locker room.
That's basically it. Yeah. It's something that you would shoo away. You wouldn't be scared of it. You'd just be like, get out of here.
Are you a proud Cincy guy? I ask this because I'm a giant UConn fan, grew up in Connecticut, and that's our pro sports team. And UConn Cincinnati, for any college basketball fans, I mean, those games go back years and just hard-nosed, well-coached, Calhoun, Huggins, Mick Cronin. So did you just get looped into that culture when you went there a little bit?
Yeah, definitely when you're there, when you're on campus. The cool thing about Cincy is all the sports fields are on campus. So, like, the baseball field, your right field wall, pretty much right behind the fence, is the basketball arena, and then past center field, left field is the football stadium, and so they're all right on campus, which is really cool when you become a huge UC Bearcat sports fan. Since leaving, I can't say that I'm like watching every single game and like crying when they lose and breaking TVs, but I do like to see them do well, and definitely like to support them.
I like that.
Do you hate them, Jake? Is that what you're getting at?
No. I wasn't saying that. They genuinely have like a good, like, friendly rivalry. Like, if one team's up or the other team's down, they're still gonna play a good game. The one thing I was gonna mention as a quick jab, and I mean I do have my Jake Sucks hat on.
Is that Huskies would kick a Bearcat's ass?
I think the year after, or maybe you can loop me in on this, or if you remember this one, I think it was the conference tournament, 2015, 2016. Jalen Adams hit like a fourth overtime 80-foot shot. That's one of the craziest shots I've ever seen on a basketball court. I was watching live in Dallas, and a Cincinnati Bearcat guy was actually going down the street celebrating because he thought they won because they hit a buzzer beater. And then UConn hit one back. It was one of the more nuts college games I've ever talked about. So you don't have to talk about that, but if you'd like to, it's there.
That's an example of Jake being a way bigger fan than me. And like,
I'm sorry.
I don't even know about that moment.
We're
I'll
used to
dip
that.
out. We can go to baseball.
That happens all the time with us. He starts talking about a game, and this sounds like a
get
big game,
excited.
so maybe we should know about it. But Jake is
No.
he's very much the biggest sports fan on this pod. So
Thanks, Trev.
par for the course.
Worst baseball player, biggest sports fan.
Yes.
Well, you're putting yourself worse than me. That was nice of you.
I got to fluff everyone up a little bit.
Everybody needs a good fluff.
How's life been without baseball for you? Do you have secondary hobbies that you're like, all right, great, now I can go knock this out. I can up my fishing game or something. Or are you just lost?
We've been doing a lot. So I actually am in a house with 3 other teammates. So it's a pretty incredible house. I am very fortunate. I have a family friend who lets me stay here during spring training. So I have the guest house, which is basically a house in itself, and the other 3 guys are in the main house. We have a tennis court. We have basketball hoops. We have a putting green. We turned the garage into our weight room. Stole a bunch of weights from the Cubs. We have a pool. So it's been a very easy quarantine for us.
Yeah.
But we started a podcast. Which
Yes.
has been a fun hobby. Learned how to do that, and then a bunch of golf. I've really gotten into tennis, like really taken up tennis as a sport, and it's a wonderful workout.
Let me tell you something. What's the word I'm looking for? Serendipity? Is that a word?
Yeah, like a happy accident. Serendipity is like a happy accident.
My wife played high school tennis. She's always trying to get me to play tennis. I'm like, dude, like I am sick of playing sports. I don't want to do anything. I want to watch football. I want to watch baseball. But she's got me out of the house to play tennis recently, just the last 2 days, dude, and I love it.
Tennis is awesome.
Are you any good? Like, can you give me some tips? I'm not good.
I can say, I've been playing tennis for about 8 weeks now, 9 weeks.
Okay.
Gotten a lot better since I started. But I think the YouTube videos is just go to YouTube. Just watch as many YouTube videos as you can. Technique is a huge part of tennis. It's like
What's interesting is my
first I was
backhand is
terrible.
good. I do the two-handed backhand, and I'm good at that for some reason.
Yeah.
But my forehand, like I gotta like do the thing where it's like you bring it up and like have your hand there.
Yeah, there's just so much that goes into the technique, and like you have to feel like you're hitting it straight down. Like creating topspin is tough. Serving is very hard.
Isn't your backhand is just your swing, Trev, right? You were a righty, so your backhand is your baseball swing? Doesn't that make a lot of sense?
That's the
Backhand will be
opposite.
my left-handed swing.
Okay.
So my forehand's baseball swing, but like it's just a different thing.
Because in baseball, you're pushing out and trying to keep this tennis, it's the opposite. You're trying to create topspin. Unless you were like really good at hooking balls over the third baseman's head, like that's all you're trying to do. You're trying to hit it right into the ground. It's a much different concept, but I've really enjoyed it.
Okay, look, I'm just saying maybe in the future, let me work on my game a little bit. You keep working on your game a little
match.
bit. I could see a match in the future. I like that.
Why don't you do like Nadal? He was raised like his dad made him play tennis the wrong way, right? Because he's a natural righty, so he's got a great backhand. So Trev, just play tennis lefty. You'll have a fantastic backhand. It'll be your swing.
Okay.
A lot
Whatever.
of weird tennis spins. Tennis spins.
That's a
early.
great strategy out of me.
I can loop this to baseball because king
Come
of
on.
segues.
Switch
but-
hitting. Do the switch
Yes,
hitting.
you got it, Jim. And that's we'll start working our way up your baseball path. We got tennis and Bearcats out of the way. What when does the switch hitting start? Because that's every baseball person's question is, did you have someone force it on you? Were you into it? Did it just happen one day? What's your switch hitting story?
Yeah, so I was a natural righty. My brother is 6 years older than me, and he played D1 ball at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh. So when he was 14 and I was 8, he tried to switch hit. Did not stick with it. Didn't work for him. But I was 8 years old, so I could do it, and just worked on it for a long time in the cage. And then, like, if we were up big in the game, I would jump over, hit left-handed. And actually, freshman year of high school was when I was like, all right, full-time, I'm doing this. I'm committing to it. And I never looked back from there. I had a college coach my freshman year tell me my left-handed swing wouldn't work and try to make me hit right-handed into fall scrimmage. Hated that, but besides that, haven't looked back.
So
don't you love the coaches that don't believe in you? I just love that. Those are the best coaches.
They recruit you to like come play for them, and they're like, "But I don't think you're good enough."
Unreal. Everyone's got one of those stories.
Yeah.
As a switch hitter, like, do you ever have doubts, or like, I know that there's been some switch hitters who like were struggling from one side but not the other, so then they just went and stayed with one. And to me, it's like the options that a switch hitter has there would kind of maybe mentally cripple me if I was going through like, oh my God, where's that? Where if you're just a righty, hey, there's only one thing to focus on. And I know Mark Teixeira said he lost his swing from both sides of the plate every offseason and had to find it. Sometimes you find one, the other. So, like, do you have different mindsets depending on what side of the box you're in?
Definitely. And I try to treat it as two different people. And you're going to get more left-handed bats than right-handed bats. It's just how it's going to happen. And especially in the division that we've played in for the last 3 years, there hasn't been any left-handed starters in the Central, like, at all. So you just get so many right-handed at bats. And like when we would go play the West a couple of years ago, and the Dodgers had 4 left-handed starters, and the Rockies had 2 or 3, and you would just be like, oh my God, like, these are lefties. I don't even know what they look like. So you hadn't taken a right-handed at bat for 3 weeks, and now you're throwing it on the fire. And that's one of the things that, like, I've learned a lot since coming up, is how to maintain that swing when you have to get on the machine. And it is a lot of extra work, but it's something that I've always thought whenever I start doubting it or going bad, I always think, you know what, that bastard lefty that's coming in throwing from behind you, like, I'd rather not face him left-handed. So I think that's one of the things that keeps me going.
Are you one of the guys that, I think it was Hicks who I played with that did this. He's also a switch hitter, and he would, against knuckleballers, would bat right-handed, I believe. Right-handed knuckleballers, he'd bat right-handed. Is that something that you do? And if you do, like, I never understood why.
I've never tried it, but I have, playing for Joe Maddon, he would suggest to Zobrist some guys to hit same side against. So I've seen Zoe go same side against some guys.
Just knuckleballers, or just like pitchers
no,
in general?
Just normal pitchers, because the splits were so like same side. The only guy that I've really considered it, and I haven't faced him since I started considering it, was Kershaw. Because I'm 0 for 6 with 6 punch-outs against Kershaw, so I think it can't get any worse.
It can't get worse.
I might just go left, because his cutter to a righty is so devastating, and lefties handle his heater-slider combo a little bit better. So I've thought about just like getting in there lefty and trying to pull it, just saying, see what happens.
Interesting. They said that about Mariano as well. Lefties had a much tougher time with him than righties did because of the cutter. So I'd love to see it, man.
I thought against
Kershaw for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have the guts to go in there, and I'm just gonna run up there left-handed. I might like bail out of the ball. He threw me one curveball, I'd be in the fetal position.
Yeah, it's almost maybe like a win for him if he just sees you come up there lefty. Is like, got him.
Well, the other thing is, if he goes to his scouting report and he has the right-handed scouting report, maybe they burn a mound visit. Maybe that helps the team.
Okay, I like that.
I like that. Okay.
Is that something players are talking about these days? Like, hey, I bet I can get him to do a mound visit in my bat.
Bet I can get him to burn one. I've never heard that one before, but that would be pretty good. Like, team guy just goes up there to get him to burn a mound visit.
Yeah, dugout's just like, good shit.
And then you flip around to the other side anyways. Got him.
Yeah.
I want to ask, because Trev's a big Cali guy, and, I'm sure you've probably asked about this or see this around, but, I mean, jumping into this baseball world, there's California guys, there's Arizona, Texas, Florida. You're a Pennsylvania guy. You go to Cincy. I mean, I want to know a little bit about the recruiting process and maybe a little bit about before that. I mean, were you going to the AAU tournaments, going to Florida and Cali and getting whooped on? Because we get some of those stories. What was a little of that process like?
Yeah, so you only, Western PA, you play 20 games as your high school season, and then you play a couple months in the summer, and that's it. So it's definitely tough to get recruited. It's tough to go play for some of those bigger schools, and that was always my goal. I wanted to play in the ACC, and Maryland, Wake Forest, and somewhere else that I can't remember, Virginia Tech. Those were the three schools that were looking at me and talking to me, and I was like, oh God, I'd love to play there. And I'm so happy I didn't, because if I would have gone and played there, I would have sat on the bench for a year or two. I would have been behind guys that were big money guys from in-state and I got an opportunity to go to Cincinnati and play from day one. I started my first game my freshman year. I started every single game that I was there for. And that was huge for me. So the recruiting process, I didn't play a bunch of AAU tournaments. We had a local team that traveled around kind of the tri-state there and maybe into Michigan or Illinois, but I didn't make the East Coast Pro team. I didn't make the area code team. I didn't make Team USA. Even in college, I went to the Cape, which was my huge break because I got some exposure my senior year because I played really well in high school and was able to get a temp offer in the Cape. So I went up for 2 weeks before the big boys were supposed to come back, played well enough to stick, and that was kind of the difference maker for me, where I was able to get that exposure. I hit a homer left-handed and a double right-handed in the All-Star game, and I was a first-rounder. It was like, bang, you're a first-rounder now. It's like, awesome, that's just great. So that was kind of my big break, and even I never got an invite to go play for Team USA my sophomore year. So I went back to the Cape, and I wouldn't have played for Team USA because I loved my Cape experience so much. We had such a great coaching staff, but even as a guy who was established, who was just really needed to roll out of bed and just do what he had been doing to be a first rounder, I still really didn't get that exposure. And I think part of it was playing for a team at Cincinnati we were really bad. We were really bad. We lost a lot of games. And the other part was, being from Western PA and just not having the same exposure.
What's the temp at the Cape like? I didn't know that was a thing. So they have guys come in for the first couple games, and then the big guys come later. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So with the College World Series and the playoffs, the Cape starts early June, and those guys are still either at the College World Series or in their super regionals. And if they take any time to go home and pack and come, it's probably 2 weeks before the full Cape is there. So you go up on a temp contract, which is basically a 2-week audition. And let's say that each team has 6 temps, maybe 1-2 guys stick around, or none. And so I was lucky enough that I went up there, played really well early, and was able to stick and be an all-star as a freshman, it was a huge difference maker for me. I mean, the exposure, and I was good at Cincinnati. I was freshman All-American, and it was awesome. But that temp contract comes through in the fall, so where you're going to play in the fall going into that spring. So there's no way I would have played well and gone from being in the Coastal Plains League or the Northwoods League and then say go come to the Cape. So to have that contract ready to go and then to be able to go up there and perform well, that was kind of the exposure I needed and the big jolt to my career.
Does the Cape League change so much? Those first 2 weeks, everyone's just on pins and needles and fighting tooth and nail for a spot, and then then they come back from the World Series and it's just summer fun, relaxed ball. Seems
it's such an interesting dynamic because you have guys from all over the country, you have guys from the huge schools, and you also have the best players from the smaller schools or from the small Northeastern schools. And I think one of the funny things I've talked about with some people is when you would look at the lineup card in the Cape, it would always have, the way our coach would write it, it would have the pitcher and where he was from and the hit and where he's from. And so when you would look at the board and you'd see the pitcher that was from a Texas or a Florida, or you'd be like, all right, that's fine. When you would look at the pitcher who was from Cal Poly State Tech, you'd be like, oh, fuck, why is that guy here? He must be nasty. Like he had to do something crazy to get here.
Awesome.
So like those were always the dudes where you were like, I don't know who this guy is, but he's definitely good.
When in that summer did Jessica Biel get out of the swimming pool?
You know, I never
That's
saw
kind
her,
of what
which
I
is
imagine.
weird.
When I think of the Cape, that's
Yeah.
exactly what I think about.
Yeah, I don't know how I never ran into her. I was always looking, but I guess I wasn't mowing enough lawns and cleaning enough pools to find her.
Oh man, sorry. I just thought of that's all I think about when I hear about the Cape. I didn't go to college, so
That and Hall Pass does the Cape Cod League too, right? Where like they like hook up with the college kids. So yeah, that's what it's all about.
all bad.
There you go.
I was the only one watching Freddie Prinze, I guess.
Yeah.
Damn, a terrible picture. I would have taken Freddie Prinze up top. As a high schooler, I would have just went to the Cape and took Freddie Prinze up top.
Dude, how stupid is he? Walks away from like a perfect game in front of scouts to just go tell a girl like see you later.
Yeah, it's not the right girl.
No.
Sorry.
It's love.
Yeah. I want to hear about the podcast you started up. What have you guys been doing? You started up a podcast and you already have, big A-list actors joining. How's all this happen?
Yeah, the power of the Cubs. It's been awesome. So I had been wanting to get into podcasting. I thought it would be a cool way to connect with fans. And I had these guys in the house and I was like, hey, we're going to start a podcast. And, like nobody's going to listen to this. This is going to be stupid. And I was like, no, seriously, let's just see how it goes. Like we had nothing else to do. So we started and, had a couple teammates on and you just kind of go through like people you've met through the Cubs. So we had Jeff Garland on, Jake Johnson. We actually interviewed Jeremy Piven and that one will be coming out soon. So to have some of these people who are huge Cub fans who, just love to talk baseball, I think one of the coolest experiences has been how interested those guys are in our stories and talking to us and asking us questions. Like, I think Jake Johnson might have actually asked us more questions than we asked him, which like for a dude who, I've watched New Girl, I've watched Let's Speak Hops. Like I love his comedy. I think he's great. And just to like hear how genuine of a Cub fan he is and how much he wanted to know about our stories, that was awesome.
That is
cool.
awesome. Everyone says I sound like him on the breakdown videos, but really just on those. Like that's the biggest thing. Is this Jake Johnson? But he's awesome. I love him. And the episode before that, you guys had your moms on. So you're just winning every aspect of fandom.
Yeah. We did a Mother's Day
Unreal.
special featuring our moms. And like they came on and told stories about us and you kind of asked for like your favorite story as a kid. And that was pretty cool. It was cool just because we had been away from them for so long, being out here away from our families. And we really thought that people could relate to that because everybody's going through something similar.
So it's called The Compound for anyone who wants to check it out. You guys already got like 400 reviews.
Yeah. People are supporting. It's been awesome. Yeah. It's called The Compound because that's what we call this crazy house that we live in.
Love it.
And me and one other guy that's doing it with me, Dakota Mekas, we're going to drive back to Chicago together. And so we're going to do the podcast from the road this week. We're going to see how that goes.
It's awesome. That's
that.
fun.
What's been the biggest learning curve or the hardest part?
I do all the editing of it on GarageBand, and I think that has been like it's time consuming for sure, and making sure everybody sounds good. Baseball players who are employed or sometimes employed by a team makes it so that you can't say anything too crazy. So making sure that everything's the way that you want it, and it's time consuming. It really is, and putting interviews together. So the editing part has been a challenge, and it's cool to learn a new skill though, and I feel like I've gotten a lot better at that since episode 1 when I was like deleting the entire episode 4 times, like what the fuck, this isn't working.
Have you guys recorded and forgotten to record yet?
No, the only recording issue we had was actually during the mom's episode, and I had my mom on. We did an interview, and I went to put it into the piece and didn't exist. The file was corrupt, didn't exist. And so we also did an ESPN interview for Mother's Day because we've kind of a cool story where I hit a homer in my debut, which was the day before Mother's Day, wearing a pink jersey. So we went on ESPN and did that story, and that got messed up too. So in 2 days, we had to redo 2 different interviews with her, and she's like a college professor. She's like, I can't be on TV anymore. Yeah, I'm done.
Well, in a way, maybe she's used to just repeating a lecture a couple times a day. She's like, I'm good at this. I can do it.
Yeah, as long as I've said it once, I could say it 1,000,000 times.
That's funny. Well, if you ever have any questions or need help with editing,
Yeah,
send them
I'm
over,
the
we can
idiot
help.
that always forgets my audio, and that's the
No,
worst
you
feeling.
just started, Trev. We've done it. We've recorded so many episodes, and then we're like, oh, that didn't record at all.
Yeah, I
So
think
what
the
do we do now?
nice thing for us is that we're all in the same place, and so
Yeah.
I'm literally hitting record, and we have one microphone. We have a microphone that gets everybody. So I think as we go our separate ways and continue the podcast, there's going to be more and more of that, and I'll just be getting so angry at everybody else.
Yep, that sounds about right. That's awesome, man. That's cool.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys are the guests I'm jealous of. Send us Jake Johnson. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I should have a blast with him.
I got something, but I don't know how to like approach it.
Okay.
I'm gonna just bear with me here because I'm gonna try to bring it all together. I'm looking at your stats. I'm looking at your baseball reference. I'm looking at your minor league stats. You've been a stud. You're drafted in the first round, 9th overall. You're a stud. Get to the big leagues. Your numbers are essentially the same as they were in the minor leagues. 2017, you're 8th in the Rookie of the Year. 842 OPS. 2018, again, you played 142 games that year. 760 OPS, down a little bit, but still a good season at the plate. 2019 comes around, and I read up about this a little bit. You played, what was it, Jake? 99 games in the minor leagues before you came back up to the big leagues. What happened? Like, why?
Trevor wants to fight someone on your behalf.
I'm not happy about it because
I
you
appreciate
earned
that.
your spot there, and then all of a sudden, and I read the reason why. You know, they said that you needed to work on your contact. You were striking out a little bit too much. I just don't buy it. You've been a stud. You've been putting up numbers, and all of a sudden you're in AAA. What was that? You had to be angry with that, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it's hard. I think anytime that you spend that much time with one group, and the Cubs, we were a group that had been together for a long time. The guys before me had been together since 15, 16, won the World Series together, and I came to be a part of that in 17, and really was a part of coming from the World Series hangover and being behind, and then overtaking the division in 17, putting a really good run together in 18 to win 95 games, and then to be told 2 days before we break that, hey man, you're not coming with the team. It's like the worst part of that was that you feel like your teammates and your friends are going into battle without you, and that's all you were expecting to do. So that was the hardest part for me. But yeah, I didn't understand it. It was difficult to swallow, and it's just out of your control. I mean, there was a lot of factors that went into it. I think that statistically, I felt like I had performed well enough to be on the team, at least be one of the 25 guys that gets to wear the jersey. My OPS was not terrible. My on-base percentage was very good the year before. I had walked a ton, and the strikeouts were high, 100%. And it, playing every day, I think it took me a month and a half or 2 months to stop being angry and start, kind of figuring out what I need to do to get back. And that's a tough part of it because you don't have a timeline. It's like just drowning here. And so that part of it was difficult. I had a great year when I came back, which was super positive.
So
and
did you think it helped you? Like, do you okay, so you go down, they say, work on your swing. We want you to make more contact. You go down there. Obviously, you're going to be mad. Like, no one's going to be happy about that. Did you do something mechanically, or was it just like you just focused on maybe when you got the 2 strikes, you put the ball in play more? Because that seems like that. I mean, you could easily fix your strikeout percentage if you just said, I'm going to 0-2, I'm just going to shorten up and just try to put the ball in play. But is that what – I'm just so confused with the whole dang thing. I don't like it at all. But did you make a mechanical adjustment? And if you did, what was it?
Yeah, there's a couple things there. I think the first thing is when you don't get to play every day in the big leagues, hitting in the big leagues is so hard.
Oh, my gosh.
So hard. So from a team standpoint with the Cubs and where we've been for the last few years is you're coming in and out, of those 142 games, how many of those were defensive replacement roles in the 7th, 8th, 9th, in 18. And there's a lot that goes into that. And so I was basically told in the offseason of 18, like, hey, you need to strike out less.
Okay.
And I said, okay, I hit 15 home runs. I hit 24 the year before. I hit 15 home runs. I want to get back to the guy in 17 who was very, very good. And how do I make that adjustment? And And so I overhauled my swing in the off season of 18, going into 19, doing stuff that I thought would help. I thought would make me better. It made me very, very bad. I had an awful spring training. But I was working on stuff in spring training. I was grounding out to second a lot because I was just swinging at high fastballs and putting them in play and trying to say, here, look, I can put the ball in play. Like, this is what spring training is for, right? And then before I know it, I'm in AAA, and then you're trying to make the adjustment in games in AAA, and you're pissed, and you're wearing a two flap, and everything's wrong with the world. And then, so when I got back to the big leagues, I'd had a really good July in AAA. I had figured some things out and gotten back to some of the things that made me good in 17. You know, that weren't adjustments that I had made. They were, hey, remember in 17 when you were a good player, just go be good again. And a lot of it has to do with confidence and being able to play every day. Because in AAA, what are they going to say? Like, you're down? Like, no, it's like, it doesn't matter if you're hitting a buck 10. Like, you're playing. So that was helpful. And then even when I got back to the big leagues, it wasn't all perfect. I put the ball in play more. My strikeout rate was better, but I still wasn't getting enough hits. And then when we got knocked out, Riz destroyed his ankle, and I got to play some first before we were knocked out. And then when we really were knocked out, and guys who had played the whole season said we've had enough, I got to play every day. And so those last 10 days, 2 weeks, I got to play every day. I raked, I dominated 3 series in a row. I was the NL Player of the Week, reigning NL Player of the Week, by the way. Maybe longest ever. Maybe longest ever. But that was the turnaround. Like, when I really got to play every day and kind of put some of the stuff into play that I knew I could do. That consistency I was like, look, I can do this. Like, I just had a 900 OPS in the big leagues over 66 games or whatever, 50 games. It's like, I'm good enough to do this. It's just got to go out there and play.
You're also 24 in 2019. I mean, like, you're coming right into the age where you're just going to blow up. I mean, these next 3-4 years, they're going to be, Ian Happ, best of the best years. Like, I'm not going to say service time manipulation. I'm not going to say that. I didn't say that.
I didn't say it either. I would have been, if I would have been up the whole year, I would have been a super too.
I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to say it.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it.
We're all not
either.
saying it.
Yeah,
I didn't
Jake, don't say it.
I'm not saying it.
Yeah.
But I think the tough part is too when you play for a good team and wins. Wins are really, really important. And when the team thinks that you won't contribute to wins, that's a tough pill to swallow. And I think that part of it was like, man, they have 25 guys they think they could win with, and not being a part of that group, like that's a real gut punch.
I don't think you can. Dude. You can. I mean, you being in the big leagues, as much as you were 17 and 18, and then having to take that step back mentally, that's just like, it's a blow. And I don't know. I mean, people will say, "Oh, dude, you'll be okay." It's just like you said. You want to be there with the guys that you've played with the last 2 years, and anybody that plays professional baseball, the only thing you want is to be in the big leagues. Like, there's no happy medium. It's like, oh, I'm in triple. No, dude, it's big leagues or bust. That's it. I earned my spot, and now you're telling me to go back and re-earn it again.
When you've been in the big leagues for 2 years too, and like gotten accustomed to that lifestyle, and like made Chicago your home, and I spent 2 off seasons not in Chicago exclusively, but kept my place, and like it really had become home for me. And then they're like, hey man, the Southwest flight leaves at 5 a.m. and you can check into the Marriott when you get home, and because we don't know how long you're going to be there, so don't get a place, and also we're not going to pay for your place in Chicago. And you're like, awesome, yeah. This is great. Yeah. This is what I signed up for.
Oh man.
So that's that. I mean, it's just an adjustment. And everybody goes through some sort of version of that, I think, throughout their career. Even the guys on our team that are super established.
Yes.
Riz got sent back. Javi got sent back. Schwarb got sent back. KB is a legend. But like, everybody goes through some sort of that process. And unfortunately for me, it was a longer period of time, and it'll affect the way I get paid for the rest of my career. But like, it's what happens. It's how it goes.
That's crazy. Well, you said you dominated the end of the season. Trev, I'll read off the numbers for you because you're like this. Last 17 games, last 45 plate appearances, 395 batting average, 907 slugging, 1.329 OPS.
Is that
reigning
good?
reigning
that's
player of
pretty
the
good.
week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now let's
hey,
Depending on how long.
let's keep
Depending
those
on how
at
long
bats
baseball
going
goes.
into this spring training. I mean, 27 at bats this spring, 481 batting average, 1.315 OPS. You've been hot.
Yeah, it's just going to keep going. As soon as we come back, it's
Yeah.
gonna keep, same stats.
I love it.
Just
Let's
keep
For
talk-
rolling.
sure, you know what it was that got you on this streak? It for sure was those 99 games in AAA. That's exactly
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah, those
You're
are
right.
always the ones that help. I think
Unbelievable.
coming back up and being able, to say that in that period of time, I hit 11 home runs and had some of the production that I was looking for, and that it was able to carry me through the offseason and really put me in a place this spring where I was super confident coming in and could say, like, look, I feel like this is my job and I can go play, and it was definitely nice.
It's awesome. Let's talk about the other side of the ball. You've played every position besides shortstop and catcher. You pitched for an inning. Do you have a love? Do you have like your heart at one spot, or
It's a great question.
do you like being all around?
I think there's a balance. I think when you first come up, just getting on the field and being able to play anywhere, it's huge, especially when you're playing for Joe Maddon. Just like because he will literally put you anywhere. I had come up as a second baseman, so I played at some outfield in college, but I came up as a second baseman. Basically, them saying like, "Hey, we want you to play second," and Hoppy wasn't established yet, and Addison was the shortstop, and it was kind of like, there's going to be a spot on the field somewhere. So then I get up, and I'm playing right field in game one because Hayward's hurt, and then I'm playing center field, and I hadn't played center field since college, and so like I just got thrown into the fire. So for me, kind of the cool experience of being in AAA, as everything else was not great, but playing center field for 99 games. I played like maybe a couple games at second, but for the most part, I played just a ton of center. So getting to play there every day and learn the position, I felt really confident, and it was something I hadn't gotten to do in my professional career yet because I was really confident at second base when I called up to the big leagues and then became an outfielder. So I think that part of it, because you get labeled so quickly as like either bad at everything defensively or like really good at one thing. I don't think anyone's ever like, this guy's a utility guy and he's awesome at all the positions. Like he should win a Gold Glove at 9. So I think even being a good athlete, and really I played really a good second base my first year in the league. Like I played a lot of games. I made 2 errors and one of them was like on a diving play. Like I was like, I'm a good second baseman. Like I can do this. And you get labeled as a bad defender. And so for me to be able to lock down one position and like be able to do it consistently and kind of prove that I can play defensively somewhere, that would be great.
So sometimes analysts, pundits, or whatever, like I think Jake and I have done it for some Yankees players before. Do you tie your batting statistics to the position you're playing that day at all? Like, sometimes people are like, well, for you, your best numbers actually come when you're a pinch hitter, which is bullshit. Like, how the fuck are you so good at pinch hitting?
Glaber had massive splits. When Glaber played shortstop, his numbers were better than when he was playing second base.
So people said that he's more comfortable. Is that real at all?
I'll touch on one thing about my pinch hitting. Might be the best pinch hitter of all time. Look those
Yes.
Your pinch hitting numbers are
I'm a nasty
bullshit.
pinch hitter. I am a nasty pinch hitter.
Trev, you
What's
see
this
these?
trick?
Dude,
I'm
296.
Sucked at pinch hitting.
296 batting average, 409 OPS, 1.057 OPS as a pinch hitter. Like, that's bullshit, man. No one's supposed to be that good at pinch hitting.
Yeah, but you got to go. You got to
regular
get some more
pincher.
bats in AAA. You're not.
Yeah, I rake
Not
as a
ready
pinch hitter.
yet.
I think the most difficult part. I don't have one position I think I like rake at, but I do think that not knowing where you're going to play and the preparation that goes into not knowing where you're going to play can affect hitting, and not knowing if you're going to be able to play one position for the entire game, or I think that it's all part of it. And I had a great teacher in Ben Zobrist who was able to tell me like the way that he prepared and the way that he thought about it, and he was back and forth all over the place. And one of his mantras was to just be as vanilla and as safe as possible. You play the ball off the wall, you hit the cutoff man in the chest, like just whatever, because if you're playing more than one position, you just don't try to do too much, because that's when you get yourself in trouble. And that was something that I really learned a lot from him, and watching him was just the consistency that he was able to go out there and play the game.
If the Cubs are up, the division's locked up, you got 10 extra games, are you going to go tap Rossi on the shoulder and be like, hey, man, I never caught or played short. Only 2 I haven't.
I don't need to catch. I don't think. I would love to play shortstop just for just give me an inning at short. I think if I get an inning at short, then maybe at some point I'll be like, hey man, if there's a position player throwing, just let me sit behind the dish. Like catching's terrifying. I don't really want to do it, but I think that playing shortstop, like to have 8 of the 9 would, like, how's shortstop the one that I don't have? Like,
Well, only the creme de la creme of athletes make it as a big league
Oh, my
shortstop.
God.
So it's like, if that's your last one.
How quickly were you kicked from short?
What?
How quickly were you kicked from short?
I'm just
30
saying,
games?
like, to be a big league shortstop, you got to be really super athletic and like pretty much the best athlete out there. So
that's why I just want 1 inning. I don't claim to be the most athletic. I just want the one. I just want 3 outs.
I
I
like
don't know
what you're
what
saying.
the Twins were thinking. I don't know.
I like what you're saying about a non-catcher catching when a position player pitches. Just make the whole battery, first timers.
That's the only way I would do it. I would never catch an actual pitcher. You couldn't pay me enough money to like sit back there and be like, hey man, call the game and then catch it. I was like, I'm just gonna get hit in the face mask 10 times. Like, I'm not doing that.
I just had
Especially
a really
the way
good.
guys throw now.
Trev, I had a real good hypothetical on Twitter I just tweeted out, and it was, would you rather catch an Aroldis Chapman fastball, full catcher's equipment, but you have 2 cleats on your hands, or no catcher's equipment, but a catcher's glove?
Catcher's glove.
But you don't have a face mask.
So what?
Or a cup.
Or a cup. Yeah, what if he spikes it?
You're gonna go like this with the.
But you got a mask on at least.
Do you have to?
Damn.
You don't have to catch it. Can you get out of the way? Like, you can't possibly catch it with spikes on your hands. Can you just like dive out of the way?
Do you
I
think
guess
it's
so.
gonna
It's
feel
coming
good
fast.
to get hit with an Aroldis Chapman fastball because you have a face mask on?
No, but it's not going to kill me.
Could be better than death.
I don't know.
That's the
I think
alternative.
I don't know.
Wow.
It's an easy question for me.
How about when you got tapped into pitch, when you got on the mound? Was that were you eager to do that? Did you volunteer?
That was awesome. We were getting smoked by the Cardinals, and Joe was trying to save some arms, and so Rizzo had always wanted to pitch, but we were out. Like, we needed somebody in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. So I believe Caratini threw the 7th.
He threw the 8th.
He threw the 8th.
Yeah.
Did I throw the 9th?
Yeah.
Okay, so Riz got 1 out in the 7th because he got 1 out, and so Caratini came in. I think gave up a couple hits or a home run or something, and then I got the 9th. So when I wasn't in the game yet, so when I found out that I was maybe going to pitch, I ran to the locker room. My brother was living in the city with me at the time, and I texted him. He wasn't at the game, so I wasn't starting. I texted him. I was like, "You got to get down here. I think I might pitch." And I was like in the 6th. So I come back down. I'm ready to go. I go out there, and Joe's, don't blow out, whatever you do. I'm like, okay. So first batter, Harrison Bader. I'm throwing 4 seams. I'm like, I'm going to sneak it above his barrel. I got this. Like 1-0. And then first strike I threw, it was just a bang, like right center, 180 miles an hour double. It's like, okay, that's not great. Then I get Jerko. I start throwing 2 seams. I'm like, I'm going to change it up. We're going to start just the gravity ball, sink it in. I get Jerko, jam sandwich, pop up to short, strand the guy at second. I get Colton Wong to roll over to Javi at second. Okay, so we got man on third, 2 outs, 2-0 to Dexter. And I get another nice gravity ball down and away. Dexter rolls over to Javi, out of the inning. No runs. I was like walking off the mound, like amazing.
Did you keep the ball?
I don't know if I kept anything. I think I was like, I had a massive adrenaline. I was like so happy to get out of it and like not have my arm fall off. I think I was throwing like 75.
Was Contreras calling for? Was he putting down signs for you?
Yeah. I think it was just once. We never even. I was like, dude, I'm only throwing fastballs because I never wanted to be the guy that came in and like was throwing 95. Like, I can't throw 95, but like was trying to throw hard or was spinning it because like I had face guys that like will do that or like throwing sidearm or something, and I was like, look, if you're gonna get hits, you're gonna get hit. Like, I'm gonna try to get you out and not throw right down the middle, but like so we can get the fans out of here. But like, I'm not gonna try to trick you because I know how hard it is up there.
Would you have been insulted if a guy switched and batted the other way, like Javi batted lefty versus the position player pitching?
I don't think I would have been insulted, but if the swing was ugly and he had this like tapped one back, I would have been like, the fuck are you doing? But like Javi almost hit a fucking homer, so it's kind of like
It's a beautiful
hey,
swing.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's pretty cool.
All right,
That's cool.
This is one question I always like to ask guys, especially hitters. Who's the guy that you face that dominates you? Like who's your guy that you're like, I can't?
So it's Kershaw.
I'm looking up numbers right now. I mean, yeah, I see that. I have a few guys here that you don't like. I've also looked at the guys that you bang, so that's going to be the next question.
Oh, love that.
But let's just start with,
that's a good
let's start with
question.
this.
Guys that I do not hit well and that I've actually faced a lot. I would say, trying to think in the division, some of the Brewers starters I don't do that hot against.
Yep, that's the one guy I was looking at.
I don't think I've done very well against Davies, but I have walked some.
That's my guy that I was looking at, Davies. You have the most at bats against him without a hit, I think.
Yeah, I've walked against him, and I've started a train of walking, but no, I don't hit him well. But I'm trying to think. Besides that, I do pretty well in the division. That's kind of like I've been pretty successful in the division.
All right, let's go to the next question then. The guys that you bang. You mentioned in division. I can go to one team specifically, the Cardinals.
I think I've hit Wainwright very well. I've hit Carlos Martinez very well. Waka.
Wainwright.
Yeah, it's big.
6 for 11 with 2 homers and a double.
Yeah,
583 on base percentage.
I've got Ivan Nova.
Yes.
I hit a home run on each of his 3 pitches. So when he got traded to the White Sox, I was a little sad. And the Reds guys, like the Reds have a whole new coaching staff now, which is unfortunate, but I've hit some homers against the Reds.
So you say in division, and a lot of the guys you've hit home runs off of, you've hit more than 1 home run off of. Like I think there's 11 guys. So is it a comfort thing? Are you diligent with note taking and prepping and remembering what these guys, how they faced you?
Yeah, I think like I don't know, this might sound weird, but the way that I kind of visualize and see guys is I see the shapes of their pitches right before it's thrown. Like you see the shape in your head. And so you kind of know like what 2 pitches look similar or like, so if it's a guy that throws a fastball, changeup, curveball, like I can kind of say like, all right, if I eliminate the curveball, the fastball and changeup look similar. So I can stay on those 2 pitches and I know where I'm trying to hit it. And the more you face guys, I think that's the crazy thing about getting sent down to AAA. If people think you stink, is like, well, I don't get to see these guys. I don't get to learn. I don't get to get better. So why that I think I have had a lot of success in division is because I've just seen them so much more. And I get starts in the division because early in my career I did well in division. And so that breeds like, hey, when we're playing in the division, you're going to get a start because you've done well. And when, the first time around the NL West, when every team won 90 games and the Dodgers and the Rockies and, Arizona, and they were all good and you don't get hits. So then the next time you play them, you don't get a start. And then you don't get enough at bats to like, oh, I understand how this guy throws and what it looks like. And so I think it's just a process of being a big league. There's a reason Anthony Rizzo hits everybody because he's seen a pitcher who looks like that guy. Like when you come back in the dugout and he's like, this guy reminds me of Joe Schmo from 2012. And you're like, the fuck? But like once you're in the league for 3 or 4 years, like you can kind of put it together like, all right, this guy is similar to Carlos Martinez. And like Luis Castillo, the reason why I hit him well when he first came up is because his shit was very similar to Carlos Martinez. And like that's kind of some of the similarities that you start to put together.
Trev was telling us how he had a batter, like kind of a mirror batter in the league, that if he wanted to see how a guy was going to pitch him, he would go look at this guy and see how that guy got pitched. Do you have someone like that where you'll check to see how the pitcher faced them because they'll probably face you the same?
Good question. Around the league I don't have someone around the league. I think I watch a lot of the way that guys pitch Schwarb before I hit. From a lefty perspective, I think guys will pitch us pretty similarly. But around the league, that's a great question. It's tough because like you don't want to, like I would like to think like I watch a lot of Josh Donaldson's swing right-handed because I like his moves and I think mine's a unathletic different version of his, but like I would think that guys would try to attack us in similar ways, but like he also is an MVP. So it's like guys aren't going to attack me the same way they would attack Josh Donaldson because they're terrified of his thump. Like you have to find guys that you think you swing similar to and that also have like similar holes to you. So yeah, that's a good question though.
What let's go back, and it's funny that it's like it's almost weird to talk actual baseball because like for this year because A, we don't know what's going on, and B, before this, I mean all the corona stuff was crazy, but we and Trev, let me know if I overstep my boundaries, and I'm interested to see, but Jason Kipnis, because he played in the AL Central a decade ago, knows Trevor. He was on to start this, and you know he's a guy that plays one of your positions. And I wonder how does that relationship go? I mean, is it day one shake hands? I know I click around a lot of internet websites, and a lot of places have you penciled in for outfield. But I guess the Cubs and you and some of your relationships with these new guys, or what you mentally had yourself penciled in for this year.
That's a great question. I'll tackle the last part of that first. Is that I think that for me it'll be more of an outfield role this year. But I think the Cubs have done a great job of bringing in guys that you would compete for a position with, like a John Jay or a Jason Kipnis, who are incredible human beings and great teammates. And I think that has made it very easy to root for your teammates, to make sure that you feel like you're making each other better and that it's not a malicious competition. So I would applaud the Cubs on like the types of people they brought in for those roles. And you know, John Jay and I split a lot of time my first year. I came up and ended up playing a lot of center field when he was a guy that was signed to kind of take most of the right-handed at bats. And he was nothing but like the best dude in the world. He was basically an extension of our coaching staff. And when we needed him in August, September, when they finally let him start to play a little bit more, he was a huge impact for us and started in the playoffs and was able to help us beat the Nationals in the playoffs that year. So like, that's the type of dude that like when I, you know, for being a rookie and being able to see that selflessness in the way that he played and how positive he was, I think for the rest of my career, I think he's one of the best teammates I have ever and will ever have. So I think that made it a lot easier and kind of clear for me to see how the relationship should work.
I'm a big John Jay guy. I mean, I've known him for a long time. We have mutual friends. I'm a big Miami baseball player guy. I love all those guys. But yeah, Kip is the same way to me. Like you said, like these two are just genuinely good human beings, and they want to compete, but they know how to do it in a way that's like we're all like a rising tide raises all ships. We're all going to be in this together, and we're all going to get better, and then whatever happens, happens.
And I think the guys that are the good veterans that don't try to demean younger players and make them feel like shit, those guys understand because they've been around long enough that you don't know what it's going to look like 20 games into the season, 30 games into the season. Like somebody can get hurt, somebody can get hot, anything can happen. And you know that whatever spring training is supposed to look like and pencil it as, the one thing that you can be sure of is that's not what it'll look like at the end of the year. So the guys that are good vets and they understand that and they don't put too much pressure on what happens in the first 20 games of the season, those are the dudes that I've always tried to stick with.
Does the news of a DH excite you? Because as a super utility being able to play everywhere, I mean, that opens up a lot of options for Cubs guys to go get a day DH and you can replace him in the field no matter what the position. It's got to be exciting.
Yeah. I think huge for us as a team. I think because we have kind of the best NL DH ever in Kyle Schwarber, but also because our catching situation with Victor Caratini, who's fantastic and a switch hitter, and also Wilson Contreras, who's, you know, the last two All-Star games started catching. So I think it gives them a chance to get more bats. It gives us a chance to spell Riz and like all that stuff for our team. It does wonders, but it's also the DH is 400, 500, 600 more plate appearances spread out between however many guys you want to give it to. And if you give me 100 of those 500 or 600 plate appearances each of the last 2 years, or 17 and 18, I guess, when I was up for the full season, that's 550 and 550 at bats for 2 years. Like that's a huge, huge difference. So I think those at bats, just in general, being able to have any amount of them is huge.
Yeah, but you know what's funny is that'll almost bring the end to pinch hitting. Like there will still be some pinch hitting. I don't know what you guys are going to do specifically as a team,
Yeah.
but my experience in the AL is
But
pinch
they're
hitting
changing it, Trev. Now with the mandatory four bench spots, like that may help it because, the last couple of years teams have only had 3 guys on the bench and one's the backup catcher. So pinch hitting's been dead in the AL for a while. But mandating that 26 guy being a bench guy will help a little bit because I still want pinch hitting to be
Possibly.
part of the game.
I don't know if it will. I mean, maybe. But, the biggest thing that will happen is you'll get actual days off. And in the National League, there's no such thing as like a real day off.
Unless you're a guy. Unless you're a guy. And they say you've played 10 in a row. I don't care what happens today. You're not hitting. Like that's
even then, dude.
Even
you have
then,
those
it
games.
happens.
It's like 10. You're in the 10th inning. Like, fuck. Like I got to put my spikes on or whatever.
Yeah. The way that it's been talked about for us, and I think for some of the other NL teams, is that the roster construction, because nobody knew this was coming, was constructed more for some of the platoon roles and some for guys that were specifically supposed to pinch hit. And so I think there will be more in the NL at least this year, probably next year, than you've seen in the AL. But it's like over time, how will that develop? Like teams love to have guys that they can swap in and out and play the video game with and say like this guy's supposed to get hits against this guy. So I think that there's teams are constructed that way where you're not gonna see 9 guys that go play or 8 guys that go play every day and then just guys that are pinch runners or bench guys.
I got to ask about Maddon because I want to know the inner workings of the dress-up days and the costumes and bringing a penguin into the clubhouse and a magician and all that shit. Like how do you find out that there's like a Joe Maddon event in the clubhouse happening?
Some of them come from Joe or came from Joe, and some will come from players. I think he was really open, especially as the years went on, because 15 and 16, I'm sure they were more Joe centric events. But as 17, 18, 19, like he would ask players, like, what do you guys want to do? And it would be like Riz would have a day or Lester would have a day and like dress up as Stropey Day, like stuff like that, where it was more coming from the players and less coming from Joe. And I think that what people never got to see kind of behind the scenes was our strength coach, Tim Bust, who was an absolute legend in the game. He was the strength coach for the Cubs for 19 years, probably the longest 10-year strength coach ever in baseball. Like this dude is an absolute legend. And he coordinated a lot of some of that stuff. He was the heart and soul of our team. He would do everything to keep guys up. He was like our mental skills and every part of it as the strength. Like he had so many different hats that he wore. And so I think like that was an underrated part of our team, and Joe took him to Anaheim. So we have missed him, but that dude is a special human.
I love that. I love that he gets a shout out right here because like you said, I never heard of that. I've never heard of him, but I'm sure that anybody that's come into contact with him will share the same sentiment as you. So I'm glad that he's getting some airtime right now, man.
Yeah, his stories, because 19 years he was with Sammy and with Ramos Ramirez and like Greg Matt, like all these dudes, and to hear his stories. And when Wrigley before it was redone, there was only one weight room, and the visitors would have to come over and work out in the tiny home weight room. And so he got to know all the dudes across the league, and anybody who played the Central, until 2017, like knew him well. And he's just the best dude ever. And I think that Joe's coaching staff he's put together in Anaheim is really, really good. And I think one of the keys to that is Tim Buss.
Buss is such a good name for a strength coach. It's 2 S's too. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I was going to ask and go back to Maddon a little bit because me and Jimmy have seen this for a while. We're naturally Yankees fans. That's how this all started. So we saw, throughout the Rays years and as it developed. And, being a manager nowadays, a lot of it is taking the player's mind off it and distractions. And Maddon, did that to big levels, whether it was the Penguin or the Magician. And I kind of like when Trevor was talking about pitchers you rake against and pitchers who got you. What's like the one highlight that jumps out that you're like, damn, there's a penguin in the locker room. This is pretty cool. And what's the one low light that you're like, all right, I'm kind of in a slump right now. Get this magician out of my face.
Oh man, that's a good one. Trying to think of like the best Joe thing that we did. I think one of the coolest things, and probably was the coolest for me because I hadn't been in the big leagues yet, and it was 17 coming off the World Series. We had that, like, every spring training with Joe was awesome, but that spring training was like nothing could go wrong. You know, this team had just won the World Series. Everybody loved every single player on the team, and so this has to do with Tim Buss. But they rented him a Ferrari, and the Ferrari came. He drove it from the parking lot around the corner. It was white convertible, and comes onto the agility field for stretch. And so he was literally driving it around as he was leading the stretch. And he always loved to talk about, you know, the playoff share that he got and how much the team had changed his life. And so that was a really memorable one. And the other one would have been him leading stretch in a wrestling outfit, like Nacho Libre. So just the mask and the underwear, which was fantastic. Those were the two. And Joe just let him do his thing during spring training. So like every spring training with Joe was awesome. I'm trying to think of like the one where I was like, I have no desire to do this. I can think of one that it wasn't that bad, but we all got custom biker jackets for a road trip. And so it had like Happer on it and like this big like bald eagle on the back. And I decided to go no undershirt under it. And so like we would have to walk to the buses because there was no underhang at Wrigley. You had to walk across the street to the parking lot to get on the bus. And so as I'm walking out and you're being photographed and you're in front of all the fans, I looked down, or actually I got to my phone and like had seen the pictures get on social media, and I realized how bad my farmer's tan was, and like how tough it was for me to be sleeveless. And at that point I was like, wow, that's a tough look.
Those aren't going anywhere. Those are on the internet forever.
Yeah, forever.
And now I'm going to go Google and.
That's right. I mean, you can have a farmer's tan playing baseball, right?
Oh, it's guaranteed. And like baseball and golf are my two things, and like there's pants and there's a collared shirt, so there's no getting away from it.
I have one more pressing question. It'd be my last. When you step in the box versus Jay Happ, is there pride on the line there? Are you
There was. He punched my ticket.
Oh, okay. He got you?
He got me. Yeah, we played
Battle of the Happ?
Toronto in 17. You know, we're not related. I don't know him at all. I've never spoken a word to him. But
not even like a head nod, like a Jeep head nod, where you're like,
no,
I know what's on the line here.
I wish, you know, as a rookie, like he was very established. So like there was no way that I was gonna like run up to him at Wrigley, like as we're stretching and be like, "Hi Jay, like I'm also Happ. How are you doing?" So yeah. So we ended up facing each other at 17, and he struck me out pretty quickly, and maybe even got me out multiple times. And I know that I didn't get a hit off him, and he was a bad matchup for me with some high four-seamers and big curveballs. And I put way too much pressure on myself that day. Hopefully, we get another matchup because I would like some redemption.
Oh yeah. It's 0 for 3 Ks.
That sounds right.
So he knew. So he knew. He knew there was.
They had a good report against me right-handed. I hit very well left-handed against them, but right-handed not so hot.
Happ's
I almost came out and said he's in the book, and then I looked at my stats against him, and he's not in the book. I am 1 for 8 against him, so I am in his book more than anything. But so I'm happy I didn't come out and say that.
Always tough when you think you got somebody and they've dominated you.
Trying to think who it would be that I thought.
What's the equivalent? Like, how does a pitcher say that? Like, you know, you're in my book. What's the pitcher? Do the terminology? Is it just if they K you? Because it's kind of different.
It is different. I don't know. I mean, like, if you pump someone once, they're in your book. So it's like.
It's all you need.
It's all you need. The pitcher, I think, to like say like I own you or like you're an out. I think maybe they say that like he's an out.
Yeah,
Jay Happ could say I'm an out.
He would also say that he dominates me.
Yeah, so they have that. But then with hitters, it's so cool. Like I said, all you have to do is pump them once, and then for them, you'd be like, dude, you're supposed to win. Like you guys win all the time.
That is funny. It's just
We
one
have an
time.
out.
Yeah, cool.
Who,
Hey, man.
Who am I thinking of?
Lance Lynn.
Keep digging for soft throwing lefties that you hit homers off, Trev.
That's
Who's
what
Aaron Sanchez, Marco Estrada.
I'm a golfer as well. Who are the golfers on the Cubs? Who's the Cubs golf squad?
Yeah, me and Lester are kind of the two that have been playing for a while. Rizzo just got pretty heavy into it in the last couple of years. He loves it. And Schwarber likes golf. That's kind of the group. Like John and I played a lot in 18. Kind of whatever the best course was in the city, we'd just go out and play. And his Rolodex is pretty long, been around for a while, so that was a nice one for me to piggyback.
Good ally.
Yeah.
All right.
Trev, you still racking your brain over there?
I'm trying to look it up. I'm sorry. I'm just.
All right, man.
Whenever I get to talk about myself being a good baseball player, I try to do it. So
Everybody needs a fluff.
I got it. I'm looking it up. I'm gonna get it. Okay.
The other question that we like to ask sometimes is there a defensive highlight of yours that you go back and watch every now and then? You're like, that was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I think when you play as many positions, it's like. But the one that does stick out to me, and it's not even that cool. It's just I was playing second base in Miami my first year, and D. Gordon hit me a ground ball up the middle to my backhand, and I made a nasty play and got him out, and he's fast as hell. So that was like, and it's on like one of the YouTube highlight reels that you can go on and taste yourself with. So I've seen that one before. Our computer system that the Cubs have, where we can basically watch any play that's ever happened in the history of the world. Usually you just use it for hitting, like going to find I wouldn't even know how to go about finding a defensive play that I've made.
Yeah, it's more hitting is way more cool to look at.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this, I have a show that we go over highlights, and I've used this platform to get guys on that show. Maybe we'll exchange information.
Just a taste session?
It's a taste yourself session.
That is wonderful.
We're what we do. We're a pro taster pod. We're pro taster.
Sounds glorious.
We'll hook it up. I did find the guys who I thought was Jay
Who was
Happ.
it?
Well, it was either Aaron Laffey or Brett Cecil. Because I knew it was Toronto.
That makes sense.
I think
Don't
Brett
bring Brett
Cecil is
Cecil
who I
into
was
this,
thinking.
dude. That's mean.
Brett Cecil, Aaron Laffey.
He was an all-star, dude. Like whatever, man.
Yeah. Cecil was nasty.
And there you have it. I was excited to ask about the Battle of the Haps because both guys know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
Like, Trev, imagine there's another Plouffe in the league, but he's not related to you, and he's a pitcher. When you step into that box, you know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely competition. I think for me, Plouffe, I would just start laughing because, like, what a ridiculous name. Happ is kind of one of those names. Like, I could see how other people would have that last name. But he was pretty good. I had a J.A. Happ. Don't know a better word, but I had a J.A. Happ brain fart on the episode we all heard. I thought I'd take him up top. I didn't. But, yeah, this guy was great. Like, Ian, I was kind of, like, not in a great mood before the interview, and then this happened, and I feel pretty good now.
You know what is weird? His pinch hitting numbers are so good.
Yeah.
Scary thing to be good at in the NL. What if like that becomes a shitty thing? They're like, we're not going to start you today because we want to just slide you in wherever we can at the right moment.
That's where we talked about it in versatility and we danced about it, but I thought about asking, and it sounds like a kind of too reportery, but like, do you ever feel like your versatility hurts you? Like, do you ever feel like if you just said, hey, I play second base, that you'd get slotted in second base at some point? But we danced around that convo a little bit, and I got enough out of that. Trev, I know we've talked about this a little bit. When guys start talking about like, yeah, I was on the all freshman team in college and I raked and I started every game. Do you get a little bit of the college jealous? Like, that was probably a good time, huh?
Cape League.
I mean, would I have had fun in college? Absolutely.
Trev just tells them about the wet T-shirt and the booty shaking contest.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I had a college experience my first few years of pro ball. I tell people all the time, I was an idiot. I partied too much. I was doing extracurricular stuff too much probably. But, when you're that age, it kind of just comes with the territory. You're not
Yeah.
smart enough to understand what's going on. I wasn't. Maybe some guys are. Maybe some guys are mature enough to just go about their business. But when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, they gave you some money, you're traveling, like you're going to be an idiot. So
Know who's
maybe I would have
mature
done better in
enough?
college.
No, who's mature enough? Cole Tucker.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Jesus.
He's my guy, dude.
Talking baseball legend, Cole Tucker, man.
He is
Someone
a
in the
legend.
comments was saying it was like some team, like, when are you going to get a guy from this team on? Which I love. I love listeners being like, when are you going to get someone from my team on?
Mariners.
Was it Mariners?
Yeah.
Okay. So producer BBD I saw A's as well, and I was like, all right, let's get it.
I got A's ties.
Through umpire out there.
I got to say, you guys know who like my number one guy is?
Your dad?
Matt Chapman.
Oh, Chapman.
I'm getting like new guys. Like I haven't really been, seeing him on the TV doing his thing, and we're talking to other guys. I feel like I'm kind of like in this. I have mistresses or something. Like I'm getting new guys.
Oh, okay. So Matt Chapman was your guy.
Like he's my main piece, and now all of a sudden he's not on my TV all the time. I'm still texting him. My bad, but because I'm seeing these other guys, I'm around these other guys. Like I'm kind of like getting that. Like, am I having an affair with these other guys? Like Cole Tucker's like maybe my main guy. Like,
Oh, shit. Okay, well, if anyone has a direct line to Matt Chapman, can you just let him know that, like, we need to get him on the show? Otherwise, Trav's going to feel like he's cheating on him.
Jack Flaherty's my main guy, but he's a pitcher.
So we need a
position
main guy
player
hitter.
wise. Yeah.
Main guy hitter.
Okay, all right. So
The other
just,
the other issue is that Chapman, he's also 27 now. It's kind of aging out of Plouffe's interest.
Yeah.
Oof. It's a young man's sport, and the young men take my heart. But I'll tell you what, Chapman, I mean, he's got the soul and the body of a young player. He's in his prime.
people say that shit about Jake a lot, too.
I'm going
my
to try
God.
to get Chappie on. Let me just say this. I'm going to try to get Chappie on here. He doesn't like doing this stuff. So
I
it's
have a
hard for me to
connected
ask him
Chappie,
to do
too.
it.
You want me to get
Okay.
Chappie?
Yeah, reach out.
Race?
Race
Who's
is
your
on,
connect?
official.
I know who
Everyone get ready. Trev versus
Yeah?
Jake Race.
Okay.
I mean, I can text him right now.
I just did an interview with NBC Bay Area. I got a connection,
How'd
too.
that go?
It was cool. Jake sucks.
Hey, this would be good fodder for the outro music. We got an email today at Jomboy Media that was some 5'3" young-looking kid who said that I should do something about looking young and like get it out to the people. So, yeah.